welcome to another series of A to Z of Future Careers for ISP parents and carers. Today we have Damiano Antanazzo from Istituto Marangoni, who's going to cover careers in the creative industry for us today. Damiano is an international admissions manager for Istituto Marangoni, and he's going to share insights about careers in the creative industry. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Damiano. Thank you, Damiano.
Thank you, Gore. Well, I'll briefly reintroduce myself, helping Gore with my surname. It's Damiano Antonazzo, and I'm the International Admission Manager at Istituto Marangoni, taking care of promotion recruitment in basically, actually worldwide. I've been in the education sector for almost 15 years, actually 16 years. It's going to be this year. And I think that over this long period of time, I got a lot of questions regarding job opportunities in the creative industries. Because fashion design, everybody knows what we're talking about. But when it comes to education, one of the most important thing is what can I do? What can the student do after the end of their study path, whether it's like a bachelor or a master degree. And it's important actually to link the students with the industry. And if it's pretty straightforward with other majors, it's probably more difficult to understand how many job opportunities are there in the world of fashion and design. So this is why, together with Warren in ISP, we decided to prepare this short presentation that is going to speak about that with an introduction about the place where I work, which is Istituto Marangoni. And Istituto Marangoni, it's very well known for the preparation during the study path of the students and the link with the industry, which is one of the pillars of our institute. So in this presentation, I would like to give you like a brief introduction of Istituto Marangoni, a little bit of background to understand how important is not only the school, but the location of the school. So Istituto Marangoni is an institute founded in 1935. So it's basically almost 90 years that we've been teaching creative subjects and majors. And the school has been founded in Milano by Giulio Marangoni, who was a famous tailor dressing women of the High Society, that decided to open a school and to prepare those professionals that, well, some of them became stars in the fashion industry, such as Domenico Dolce of Dolce & Gabbana, Franco Moschino, Alessandra Facchinetti, for example, and Paola Cademartori, and many more. The school then had a big, let's say, went through a big internalization process starting from 2003 with the opening in London, then Paris, Shanghai. In 2014, we opened Milano Design School. So not only fashion, but also design such as interior, product, or graphic design. Then Firenze in 2016, Mumbai, Miami, and the last opening has been in 2022 in Dubai. We have like a new project coming over, which is the new opening in Riyadh, which is going to be in 2025. What we do as Istituto Marangoni, we basically teach fashion, design, arts, and fragrances and cosmetics. So this is our four main areas of studies. But how this is linked with the location? Actually, if you see the location on the screen on the presentation, You see those cities who are considered to be fashion capital, design, arts capital, or even capital of luxury industry. Milano, which is very famous for pret-a-porter, styling, communication, and also for design, hosting one of the biggest design exhibition in the whole world, which is called the Design Week or i Saloni del Mobile. London, which is more related to subculture, street fashion, new trends. Paris, the haute couture, the culture of atelier, the high-end fashion. Firenze, which is also more related to art, or Dubai, which is definitely linked to the luxury industry. Those cities have been chosen not by chance, because the school with 90 years of heritage has a lot of knowledge in preparing the talents of the future. But it's important for these talents, so for our students, to have the possibility to work in the industry. And so the school exists where the design system or the fashion system exists. And it's a key factor, it's a key aspect, because students can get the knowledge from professional teachers who are there because they have been working or are working in this industry. And then we can include in the study plan company projects or internship for the students, because the industry is there. And then the students can get placed, and then later on they can get also back to school as teachers or tutors or mentors. So this is the closure of this cycle that can be available where the design system or the fashion system or the art system exists. Well, just briefly, fashion is taught in every school. Then we have design in Milano, London, and Dubai. And then we have art courses available in Firenze. Another important aspect of Istituto Marangoni is the validation, quality of higher education. Validation, which is different depending on the school, or actually depending on the location. So what is different is the body of validation. Milano and Firenze, AFAM, it's the creative part of the Italian Ministry of Education that validates all programs at BA level and master level. Then London, Paris, all programs are validated by Regent's University, which is part of the same group that owns Marangoni. And then Paris has an additional validation, which is RNCP, which is a French professional validation. And then in Dubai, we have the CAA that, in a nutshell, is the equivalent of AFAM that we have in Milan and Firenze. Why is it important to have the validation? Not only because all titles that students get are recognized and equivalent to a BA level or a master degree, but also because having the validation, it's possible to include in the study plan mandatory internships that students must go through when they're studying. This is available, for example, during the third year of the bachelor and during the second or third term of the master degree. Basically, Istituto Marangoni began long ago as a private school, so without validation, but starting from probably 18 years ago, we got in touch with the ministry and with other universities for the validation procedure. And the last area of study that was not validated was fashion business, that has been validated in September 2024. So important because of the possibility of including the internship in the study plan. This is about the school, about the importance of the location and the validation in terms of job placement and job opportunities. Talking about our DNA, so the Marangoni DNA is very linked with fashion and with the link of with links to the luxury industry. I would like to have just a few numbers to again give you the background of the links that we can have with this industry. According to the consulting company Bain & Company, together in relationship with Alta Gamma, which is the trade association of Italian luxury good producers, the luxury market, the global luxury market should reach 1.5 trillion in 2024 in total like income, and the growth is basically between 8 and 10% compared to the previous year, so last year. And this is globally related to the luxury market. If we focus on the Italian fashion industry, then the turnover is 103 billion euros for the 2024, which had an increase of 4% compared to last year. And the clothing and accessories part of this sector has also a very high turnover, being basically one of the main sector of this economy. So this is the sector and how it's evolving. And what are the companies that basically you can find, some of the companies that you can find in this sector that are linked with the school, and that can be a placement for the students once they finish their studies, undergraduate or postgraduate. The luxury pyramid is what you see in the presentation in the screen now, and it's divided basically in 4 different parts. It's from the accessible brands that, for example, can include Ralph Lauren or Hugo Boss, which is basically what the majority of the people have access to. And this is why it's called accessible. Then the next step is aspirational. That includes basically brands who position themselves as one of the aims of a certain target audience. That is people who aspire to get to a higher level of lifestyle or self-expression by buying items of these companies, such as Moncler or Roberto Cavalli or Tod's or Marc Jacobs or Max Mara. If you go like higher, then we have the high-end fashion, and it's already when the brand is a status. So it's not like aspirational, but it's by having one items of one or the other companies, then it's already a status. And probably best examples could be Rolex or Gucci or Valentino. And then the absolute is the elites of the high end. So is those who are accessible to a minority of the target audience of the people, and includes the very luxurious brands that could be not only in fashion, such as Chanel, Tom Ford, or Bottega or Hermès, but also, for example, Ferrari. That is a company with which we've been doing projects for the lifestyle parts, so like for showrooms and fashion design and accessory design in the last 2 years. So this is the picture of the companies and the different levels that they have compared to their like target audience, and the way we can interact with the companies. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, over these many years speaking with students, with families, with parents, there has been, let's say, always doubts about, if a girl or a boy is interested in studying fashion design, then for many people, fashion design is, doing clothes, which is pretty straightforward. And as a matter of fact, it is like that, but it's not only one profession. So the fashion industry is very huge, it's very big, and has a lot of job opportunities that are not related just to sketching or sewing a dress. And one of the questions that I got asked many times, especially from parents, is if my daughter or my son does fashion design, where are they going to end up working? Well, actually, the fashion industry evolved a lot, and if, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the jobs in the fashion industry were already many, now, nowadays, there is like a bigger portfolio of opportunities, and that includes also new jobs that were not available before, that have been created thanks to the new technologies. This part, especially with the new technology, we are going to see that at the end of this presentation. So if we begin with fashion design, which is, I would say, the core business of Istituto Marangoni, what are the professions that we can find? Fashion design, again, pretty straightforward, how to create the collection from A to Z. So the fashion designer is responsible for creating clothes, accessories, and other fashion items, and take care of the entire process. It means that finds the inspiration, does the research, and then color board, material board, sketches, technical sketches, and then the prototype that needs to be prepared. But this is only one part of the creation of the fashion collection, because the fashion designer, which is also most known as the creative director of fashion house, works closely with the style office. The style office, which is made of many people. I remember that Armani Jeans a few years ago had only, for the Armani Jeans department, between 12 and 18 collaborators to develop these collections. So the style office is the department that is responsible for the coordination and the development of what the creative direction, director gives as the idea to create like the new collections. So it's a work of teams where basically the designers translate and put into reality the idea of the creative director. So we are seeing that there are like already many people working to develop the creative part of a collection, which is not just the creative director, supported by the style office with the support of the product development, which is basically those made of this department. Product development is made of those professionals that are able to speak different language, because they need to speak with the creative director, they need to speak with the stylist, they need to speak with the suppliers, and they need to speak with the productions, because the product manager is responsible for the realization of the idea that started with the fashion designer, went through the styling office, and now needs to be put into production. Just to give you an idea, there are not many educational programs in product management, for example, but it's one of the most demanded careers from the industry, because there is a lot of creatives, there is a lot of managers, but being able to speak those different languages and having the know-how to understand if a creative idea can be put into reality needs a very specific set of skills and very specific ability to speak with different people at different levels. And we, as Istituto Marangoni, opened the first fashion product BA ever 2 years ago, when it was around April. And by September, we already had 30 students enrolled. And then the next year, we already decided to open the master as well. So why? Because there is a need from the industry that we would like to provide. And fashion product is, again, one of the most important, not most important, but most in demand jobs as we speak. If fashion design is how to create a collection, then fashion styling is how to present a collection. So it's more related to image and communication. The fashion styling, as a matter of fact, is the person who is able to give character to a collection. How many times have you seen a collection on podium and a collection on paper with a photo session or on a video? the power that the styling gives to the collection is the beginning of the success of the collection, because the stylist is able to give character to it. The stylist is also able to choose what are the accessories that goes together with the outfits, and what are, for example, in a catwalk, during the fashion show, the first, the second, the fifth, and the 10th element. Because when you see a fashion show, the fashion show tells a story, which is created by the fashion designer and all the team, and represented by the stylist. When it comes to the representation of a collection, to the presentation of a collection, not on a catwalk, but basically in malls or shops, then it's the visual merchandiser that comes in, which is responsible for designing and creating visual displays within retail stores, actually to promote products and then engage the shopping experience for all the customers. Related to these two, to styling and visual merchandising, we cannot forget about who is responsible of the content production. The content production is very much related to communication, but styling is image and communication, and it's the department which is responsible for curating the multimedia content. And nowadays, it's one of the most important departments able to drive the success, not of only of a collection, but of a brand, of a designer, and of a fashion house, because of the fact that it's very related to images and what we see when, for example, we look for something in internet or social media. We started with the fashion designer and fashion styling, so creation and presentation of the collection, and fashion buying comes with the business side of the fashion industry. In the business side of the fashion industry, there are a lot of programs that students can take and a lot of jobs that students can access after they finish their studies. The buyer, which is responsible for purchasing products by the company, and is also responsible and must be able to identify all the trends and select the products that the specific target audience that has been identified before will buy. And the merchandising, so the merchandiser is responsible for the presentation and the planning of the items in shops and malls and in all the retail area to maximize sales and profits. And again, this is the product management that we saw before, which is also a part of the fashion business and is transversal, because again, these professionals, so the product manager, are able to speak to different levels of professionals in the fashion company. So again, it's the creative part, is the image and communication, and it's the business side, so supply chain and production. How is fashion sold? Well, it used to be basically much not easier, but much simpler a long time ago, because fashion basically was mostly about the fashion show that invited the buyers that we just saw together, and then the buyers decided what to buy, and together with the merchandising, what to present in order to maximize sales. Now we still have the fashion show, which is the main event for every fashion house. Still, like Milano, Paris, London, and New York are the places to be. And still, even if it seemed, especially in 2020, that fashion shows, live fashion shows could have been replaced by virtual fashion shows, the experience proved that that was just temporary. because all the companies came back to live fashion shows, because it's still the most important event of the season for a fashion house. This is very much linked with the showroom, which is not retail, but basically the showroom is the presentation of all the items to the buyers, which is something that also is still existing and still having a lot of power in the decision of the buyers and in the decision of what makes a fashion company successful. But probably what has become very key for not only the fashion or luxury companies, but for every company is the e-commerce. Actually, by a recent research by Doxa, the e-commerce has reached over the last year more than 70 billion in income for the majority of the fashion companies. And it's basically the way in which the company try to sell apart from the retail stores. The e-commerce department is, of course, responsible for managing the company online. This is also includes, it's very transversal, because, for example, we saw the stylist and the content creator that, of course, work together in order to maximize the sales through the e-commerce. Another aspect of the fashion industry in terms of jobs is fashion promotion and communication, that is linked to marketing, sales, social media, and PR and communication. When I see these possibilities, it's always difficult for the students to decide what to take. For example, we have master in brand management, luxury brand management, fashion product management, fashion marketing communication, fashion buying, fashion styling, image and communication. So the question is, what is the best master for me, or the best BA for me, considering that there are a lot of similar paths and a lot of similar works, because they basically are transversal and they are connected to each other. So the answer depends on what the student feels closer. For example, if you speak about marketing and sales, you don't need to be creative in these two, let's say, areas. If we think about creativity as creating something beautiful or innovative. But you need to be creative in order to find, from the marketing and sales point of view, creative ways to promote fashion or luxury or design. And this is because every day the every area, every sector is overwhelmed with new products, new possibilities, new items. And so even historical brands needs to find new ways to be closer to their customers, to reach their customer and to reach new customers. So marketing and sales are more technical, I would say, but still they need some creativity. Why? Social media and PR communication, they are purely creative. Of course, both in social media and in communication, there is a technical part, especially in social media. If you think about promotion done through social media, there is, of course, like reports to analyze how many views, how many clicks, how many, the cost per leads or the cost per sale. It's technical in a very small part, because the rest is understanding what is the best way to promote that item or that collection or that brand, and through which channels. And this requires a lot of creativity. A new area of study, which is similar to the fashion product in the way that we launched that, is fragrances and cosmetics. Fragrances and cosmetics has been launched by Marangoni 2 years ago. And the reason why it has been launched, it's because, again, the market is, not the market, the industry of fragrance and cosmetic is in need of professionals in expertise that most of the times are founded in, among students who finished general business or general marketing. As a matter of fact, we've been able to place students who finished luxury brand management in companies that are working in the beauty sector. But we saw that there is a lack of preparation related to fragrance and cosmetics, and so we decided to open these 3 courses. Examples, how fashion is related to the luxury industry and to fragrance and cosmetics. Armani decided to give to L'Oréal the beauty department long ago, and with a huge success. And 2 years ago, Estée Lauder bought basically the beauty department of Tom Ford. So fashion and fragrances and beauty are more linked every day now, and the business is huge. But preparing professionals able to work directly with the beauty companies, it's an advantage for people who are looking for a job in this area. Collaboration that we did recently is, for example, with L'Oréal, with Santa Maria Novella Farmacia in Firenze, and with Dolce & Gabbana Beauty. These courses do not prepare those that we can call noses, who are the professionals who are able to put together the essences and create fragrances. This really is related to cosmetic management, licensing, and product management for fragrances. And the job opportunities, as you can see, are many. Product manager, marketing manager, license manager, digital content manager, retail training manager. It's all related to fragrances, because these career opportunities, as you see, below on this slide, are those careers that the industry of beauty is looking for now. Specifically, there is another career which is very interesting, which is the last one, is the spa and olfactive experience. This is a specific job where the professional that, for example, ends a course such as this one, the olfactory experience management for the luxury industry, is able to work with the professional that prepare the fragrances, is able to work with the luxury industry to understand what is the olfactory experience that this fashion house, this hotel, this restaurant, this spa would like to give to their customer as an experience in all the places that they are going to be present in. It's very specific, but it's very requested, and I think that most of you have already noticed that when you enter the luxury industry physically, there is always an experience that also passes through your noses. The next step is basically sustainability in fashion. Nowadays, most of the fashion houses are thinking about sustainability that goes not only from the sustainable production or the sustainable sourcing, but also on the possibility of creating clothes, outfits, accessories that reduce the social impact of the product's life cycle. And in this area of the fashion industry, it's possible to find a lot of job opportunities. There are companies, especially startups, that begin already as fully sustainable and require specific skills in order to be able to get success. But there is also big companies, such as, for example, Etro, that were thinking about sustainability already a few years ago, and now they are requesting expertise to make it happen more and more. So new companies and old companies, but sustainability is also part of the job placements opportunity. If we speak about design probably it's much easier to identify as job opportunities because what we offer, for example, is interior, graphic, and product design. And if interior is this interior designer is the person that is able basically to prepare the interior to create the experience for the person that enters a place from the physical point of view. The interior designer must be able to work closely with the product designer and especially the furniture designer in order to make this space interesting for the customer, and it requires expertise from the creative point of view, because the interior designer tells a full story and needs a creative mind to be, interesting, but also require technical skills for the development of the project and for the planning and preparation. So it's a mixture between creative and technical, such as graphic design, which is responsible for creating any visual material that probably you can see from the video, from photo, from social media, from advertising, from digital promotion. Also, in this case, there are millions of job opportunities that comes from the graphic design only. Of course, the graphic design, it's one of the most in-demand, but also in-demand jobs, but it's also one with the most the highest competition, because of the fact that we as a fashion school prepare graphic designers that are able to think about fashion and luxury. But there are like a lot of schools that prepare like graphic designer that could be seen more like as technicians. So they are very good in doing graphic design, but maybe they don't have this specific look on one or the other industry. Nevertheless, the quantity of graphic design that finished like one or the other school, it's very high. So probably is one of the job placement which is more difficult for the students when they come out of the school. As I mentioned before, the last part of this presentation is related to the new technologies that also creates new jobs. By a recent research by Monogrid, by 2026, there is going to be an increase of 25% of the population that will spend at least 1 hour per day in the metaverse for workshopping, education, gaming, entertainment, etc. And the fashion and design industry has already entered the metaverse. And how this changed the industry and how this changed the job opportunities. A few examples. We saw at the beginning of the presentation the fashion designer, and I mentioned that it's basically idea, inspiration, research, sketches and technical sketches, and then prototype. Once it was purely like that. Now, what you can see is that there is sketches and technical sketches, but the prototype is done through Claude 3D and Procreate. Well, actually, Procreate is the software for digital sketching, and then Claude 3D is the software to prepare the digital prototypes. And digital prototypes is the new area of fashion prototypes. It's done by every company, and as an example, the company Prada basically bought the Clo3D license, but didn't have enough people able to work with this software. And as we have been working with this software for the last probably 5 years, then we had the opportunity of placing with the internship some students to the Prada Group in order to be able to give this expertise to the company itself. The second picture is actually the first in 2022 digital and physical fashion show. So the Etro in Milano Fashion Week, the Etro company, was the first company who did the fashion show live and then also did the fashion show digitally. And this, in order to do a fashion show digitally, it needs skills, it needs know-how, it needs a person who are able to prepare that. And this is a new set of job opportunities that was not available, was not even possible to think of a few years ago. If we go to the shopping experience, there is more and more the introduction of NFT and virtual spaces. Adidas, the company, basically had on their website a full set of NFT, which is basically well, it's not fungible token, but we are talking about outfits created by the company, so by Adidas, available for purchase in the website that could be bought and paid only using cryptocurrency. Of course, this is something that you can see, you can check, you can like, and if you want, you can buy, but it's not something that you will receive at home. The prices are really high because, like, for example, a jacket was about like 6,000 euro when I saw that the last time. And this is also something that requires expertise because it's not real fashion, it's digital, needs to be done, needs to be promoted. So what we saw at the beginning with the social, the digital, the promotion, and the creativity must be done also for the virtual space now. And the last one is Burberry and Minecraft. So Burberry has a part of NFT where you can buy, I mean, customer can buy the outfits for their avatar in Minecraft, which is going to be branded by Burberry. Also, this requires a lot of professional being able to do that. And pay attention, it's not only the graphic design. Because it requires all the skills to sell fashion, but it's done in a virtual space. So these are just examples of how the fashion industry especially evolved lately, and how it's possible to find jobs that were not available a few years ago. This is not only about fashion, because if we think about design, more and more, the presentation of new products, new furniture is done in virtual spaces. And recently, actually last year, for example, we collaborated with the company Cappellini, and students had the opportunity of preparing the presentation in virtual space of the new Cappellini collection. So this is not only the future, because it's already there, but it's something that is going to evolve more and more. I think that this is the end of the presentation, and I hope that you have a better idea of the amount of possibilities that students have in the creative industry when they want to find a job. So we, as a school, as Istituto Marangoni, again, we try to prepare the students, the best possible way for them to be able to start their career in the fashion, luxury, or fragrance industry, and design as well. And I think the two added value are the fact that the school is up to date with new technologies and new requests from the industries. The practice that is given during studies is key for the students to have the possibility of doing company project and internship. And of course, the location is not secondary, because the location is key when it comes to fashion system, design system, or luxury industry. As a matter of fact, the last research survey, that the company Doxa did for Istituto Marangoni identified a 91% placement of students within 1 year after graduation. And I think that this is also due to all the things that we saw together today. So thank you very much, and I hope that was an interesting presentation for you.
Thank you very much, Damiano. That was very, very insightful and a lot of detail. And I think for me personally, it's the sheer diversity of roles within the creative industries that our students could potentially look into, and that focus on graphic design is really interesting, and the metaverse and the avatars being wearing designer clothes it's amazing.
Oh yeah,
it
is actually. It's something that really, until a couple of years ago, was just an idea, but now with the metaverse, with the digitalization of all companies, it's something that is already there. And we really have, if before it was something addressed only to graphic designers, now it's the luxury and fashion industry and the design industry as well that requires this specific professional to create these avatars and digital spaces, but they need to understand what is luxury and what is fashion. And this, I think, the bigger change.
Yeah, fantastic. And before you go, do you have any last piece of advice for parents that might have children looking into the creative industry, looking into fashion or luxury? Any kind of last thoughts on advice you would give parents?
Well, actually, the first advice would be really, if your kids want to study a creative major, if they believe in that, if they have motivation, then let them go for it. Because I think that everybody should do what they love, and I see that most of our students they really are motivated, and the more they are motivated, the better results they get. Remembering that there are really a lot of opportunities in this sector. Again, like as I already mentioned, but I think it's something that I've been asked, I don't know, hundreds of times, thousands of times in the last 15 years, is what are the possibilities of placement if my daughter or son does fashion design or fashion styling? There is a lot, and it's important for students to have motivation, be prepared, and then there are opportunities for all creative students. Second thing, I would say that we saw a lot of locations, especially related to Istituto Marangoni. What would be the best city? Because, for example, if there are like many schools and one school as ours that has many locations, so if fashion design is the same, why should I choose Milano or London or Paris or Dubai? This is related not only to the comfort of the student and of the family as well, so where they think that is going to be the best place to live, but to do a little bit of research in the place, the city, what the city is able to give to the students, because the city is going to be the inspiration of the students every day. And the inspiration is basically what the students will put in their projects. So it's important that the student is not just the city is not just a beautiful city, but it's the city that inspires the student. And maybe also look what are the companies there. I don't know, you want to work in Milano because there is Dolce & Gabbana and Armani, or you want to work in London where you can collaborate with Victoria Beckham or Vivienne Westwood or Burberry. or Paris with Chloé and Louis Vuitton and Hermes and etc. So do the research, what the city offers in terms of inspiration and in terms of future job opportunities. I think that these things must be taken into consideration.
Fantastic, great advice there, Damiano. Thank you very much.